Heat is supplied to a diatomic gas at constant pressure. The ratio of delta Q to delta U to delta W is. What are these three things? Delta Q is the heat supplied to the gas. Delta U is the change in the internal energy of the system or the gas, and delta W is the work done by the gas. We are supposed to find the ratio of these three quantities. For what? For an isobaric process. So let's write what is delta Q, delta U and delta W first. What relates these three terms? It is the first law of thermodynamics. Alright, what is delta Q for an isobaric process? In terms of the number of moles N and Cp, the molar heat capacity at constant pressure, we can write it as NCp delta T. Delta T is the temperature change. Now, what is delta U? It can be written in terms of number of moles and specific heat at constant volume like this. NCV delta T. And delta W, the work done by the gas for a isobaric process, can be written as P into delta V. But then again, this is an ideal gas we are speaking of, and it obeys ideal gas equation. PV equals nRT. And from here, for an isobaric process where pressure is kept constant, we can write P into delta V as nR delta T. Now, let's simplify and find the ratio. It turns out to be Cp is to Cv is to R. What is Cp for a diatomic gas? It turns out to be 7R by 2. And Cv for a diatomic gas sample is 5R by 2. That is to R. Simplify this further and you get 7 is to 5 is to 2. That's your answer for the ratio of delta Q to delta U to delta W. The correct option for this question is C. There is an ideal gas sample considered whose initial pressure and volume are P0 and V0 respectively. Its adiabatic constant is also given to us. What is adiabatic constant? The ratio of molar heat capacity of the gas at constant pressure to the molar heat capacity of the gas at constant volume. That is Cp by Cv. What is it? 5 by 3 for this sample. Alright. It is also said that the gas can exchange heat with the surroundings. What does it mean? If the process is really slow, it is an isothermal process. The temperature will remain the same as that of surrounding. Now this sample is taken through three different processes. First one is slow compression to volume V0 by 4. Second one is sudden compression to volume V0 by 8. And third one, slow compression to V0 by 6 volume. We are supposed to find the final pressure of this ideal gas sample at the end of these three processes. Well, let's look at each of these processes one at a time. First one, it is slow compression or isothermal compression. Since it is an isothermal process, let's apply the isothermal process law, which is PV is equal to constant. We can write P1 V1 equals P2 V2. What is P1? The initial pressure, which is P0 from the given data, and the initial volume V1 is V0. P2 is the final pressure at the end of this stage or this process, and V2 is given to us. It is V0 by 4 at the end of this process. Now let's find P2. From here we get P2 to be 4 times P0. Alright. Now let's look at the next process, which is sudden compression or adiabatic compression. The law which governs adiabatic process is P V to the power gamma equals constant, where P is pressure and V is volume and gamma is the adiabatic constant. And in this case, the pressure and volume change from P2 V2 to, let's say, P3 V3. But we know what is P2 and V2. P2 is 4 times P naught and V2 is V naught by 4. P3 is the final pressure at the end of this process. I'll write it as it is. V3 is the final volume at the end of this process, which is given to us. It is V naught by 8 to the power gamma, of course. Now let's simplify this and write an expression for P3. You will see that it turns out to be 2 to the power 2 into, after simplification, you get 2 to the power gamma. That into P naught. But then again, gamma is given to us, it is 5 by 3. Upon simplification, we get 2 to the power 11 by 3 P naught to be the pressure at the end of this adiabatic compression. Now, for the last process, which is slow compression, we have isothermal process law applicable because this is an isothermal process. If you call the pressure and volume in the beginning of this process to be P3 and V3 and at the end to be, let's say, P4 and V4, we know all the other values except P4. We have to simplify for P4. What is P3? It was 2 to the power 11 by 3 into P naught. And V3 was P naught by 8. That's equal to P4 into, what is V4? It's given to us. It is V naught by 16. Let's simplify. V naught and V naught will go away. That will give you 2 here. So you get P4 to be 2 to the power 1 into 2 to the power 11 by 3 P naught. And upon simplifying this, we get 2 to the power 14 by 3 P naught. And that's the pressure of the gas at the end of these 3 processes. That's your final answer. The correct option for this question is A. Let me help you in understanding the data given in the question. We are considering here 3 moles of an ideal gas sample, and this gas is taken through 2 different processes. First one is isobaric heating, such that the temperature changes from 30 degrees Celsius to 35 degrees Celsius. And the amount of heat required in order to do this happens to be 105 calorie. In the second process, which is isochoric heating, the temperature changes from 60 degrees Celsius to 65 degrees Celsius. And we are supposed to find the amount of heat required in calorie for this to happen. Well, we are also given the adiabatic exponent or the adiabatic constant of the gas to be 1.4. What is it? It's a ratio of molar heat capacity of the gas at constant pressure to the molar heat capacity of the gas at constant volume. Here are the given options. Well, how do you solve this? What comes to our help? It is the first law of thermodynamics. Let's take the first process, which is isobaric heating. You can write first law of thermodynamics like this. What is delta Q? The heat added to the system or taken away from the system. Delta U is change in the internal energy. And delta W is the work done by the system or on the system. What about the sign convention? Delta Q will be considered positive if it is the heat added to the system. If it is heat taken away from the system, delta Q will be considered to be negative. What about delta U? The change in the internal energy. You know that internal energy of the system is dependent on the temperature. It is proportional to the temperature. So if the temperature increases in the process, U increases, delta U will be positive. If the temperature decreases in the process, U decreases and delta U will be negative in that process. What about delta W? The work done. If the volume increases or the work is done by the system, then delta W is taken as positive. If the volume decreases in the process, that is, the work is done on the system, then we take delta W to be negative. Since we are looking at the first process, let me add a subscript 1. You know that delta Q in first case or the first process is 105 calorie, and that's equal to, for isobaric process, this can be written as NCP delta T1. Call this equation number 1. Now, for the second process, which is isochoric heating, we can write delta Q2 equals delta U2 plus delta W2. But in isochoric process, the volume doesn't change. So this goes 0. And we get delta Q2, which is the heat added to the system, equals delta U2, which is NCV delta T2. Now, let's take the ratio of these two equations. What do we get? We get 105 by delta Q2 equals, N is 3 in value, so 3 into Cp into delta T1. What was the temperature change in the first process? It went from 30 degrees Celsius to 35 degrees Celsius. So this is 35 minus 30 divided by number of moles is 3, this is Cv, and the temperature change in the second process happened such that the temperature increased from 60 degrees Celsius to 65 degrees Celsius. So it is 65 minus 60. Let's simplify this. Well, we get delta Q2, the heat added to the system in the second process, to be 105 divided by Cp by Cv, which is adiabatic exponent, and we know that value. It is 105 by 1.4 at the end. Calorie, of course. If you simplify this, you get the heat added to the system in the second process to be 75 calorie. The correct option for this question is B. Look at this interesting question we have on first law of thermodynamics application. In this question, we are considering an ideal non-linear triatomic gas sample, and we are providing 800 calorie of heat at constant pressure. In other words, this is isobaric heating. Out of 800 calorie that is provided to the system, some part of it is made use of in increasing the temperature, and the other part is made use of in doing the work against the surroundings. We are here asked to neglect the vibrational modes and calculate the energy used by the gas in doing work against the surroundings. Well, first of all, what is this non-linear triatomic gas all about? How is it different from linear triatomic gas? Well, if you consider a linear triatomic gas made up of 3 atoms, all these 3 atoms will lie on a straight line. In the case of a non-linear triatomic gas molecule, these atoms will not lie on a straight line. So, how many degrees of freedom have you got for this non-linear triatomic gas molecule? There are translational degrees of freedom, vibrational degrees of freedom, and rotational degrees of freedom. But we are asked to neglect vibrational modes. So we have got translational and rotational only. For translational degree of freedom, we have got 3. One along x, one along y, another along z axis. How about rotational degrees of freedom? Well, if these 3 atoms constitute the non-linear triatomic molecule, let's say, then we have one rotational degree of freedom like this, about this axis, another like this, about this axis, another like this, about this axis. So put together 3 rotational degrees of freedom, and in total how many? 6. For a non-linear triatomic gas, adiabatic exponent gamma can be written as Cp by Cv. What is Cv? Cv is Fr by 2. F is the total degrees of freedom available. R is universal gas constant. And in this case, It happens to be 6R by 2 or 3R. How do you get Cp from here? Use Mayer's equation. Cp minus Cv equals R. In other words, you have Cp coming out to be 4R. So the adiabatic exponent turns out to be 4 by 3 in this case. We need this information. Now, we are supposed to find the energy used by the gas in doing work against the surroundings. Let's look at the application of first law of thermodynamics, because we are looking at calculation of work done in this process. So, delta Q for this isobaric heating can be written as NCP delta T, which we know now to be N into 4R delta T. And first law of thermodynamics for this process tells us delta Q equals delta U plus delta W. What do we need here? Delta W. So from here, delta W equals delta Q minus delta U. What is delta Q? We know it. It is 4nR delta T. Minus, what is delta U? It is N CV R delta T. So we have N CV delta T, and in this case it is 4nR delta T minus N into, what is CV? We just now found out that it is 3R. We have delta T here. Simplify this and you get delta W to be nR delta T. If you compare the total heat provided to the system, which is delta Q, which happens to be 4nR delta T, with the work done by the gas against the surroundings, which is delta W equals nR delta T, you will find that the ratio of delta Q to delta W happens to be 4. So, we get delta W, the work done by the gas against the surroundings, to be 800 calorie by 4 or 200 calorie in magnitude. The correct option for this question is A. Next, we have a question on isobaric process. Here we have a sample of helium gas, which is a monatomic gas, taken initially at temperature 0 degrees Celsius and pressure 1 atmospheric pressure. Also, its volume initially is 1 meter cube. Now it is cooled at constant pressure until the volume becomes 0.75 meter cube. We are supposed to find how much heat is removed from the system. Also, it's given that 1 atmospheric pressure is 10 to the power 5 Newton per meter square, and universal gas constant R value can be taken as 25 by 3 joule per mole per Kelvin. Alright. How do you calculate the heat that's been removed from the system? Well, for an isobaric process, you can write delta Q, the heat removed from the system, to be N Cp delta T. What is N? The number of moles of this gas. Cp is the molar heat capacity at constant pressure for this gas, and delta T is a temperature change. We can write N, the number of moles, in terms of pressure, volume and temperature. How? Take the ideal gas equation. From here, N turns out to be PV by RT. Now, what is Cp value for a monatomic gas? Well, first let's find Cv. Cv is a molar heat capacity for the gas at constant volume, and it is given by Fr by 2. What is R? Universal gas constant. And what is F? The total degrees of freedom possible. And for a monatomic gas, it is 3. So we have this turning out to be 3 by 2. Now from here, how do you find Cp? Mayer's equation helps us. It says Cp minus Cv equals R, and from here Cp turns out to be 5R by 2. So let's substitute Cp value. It is 5R by 2 into delta T. What is delta T? The temperature change in the system, which we don't know yet. How do you find the temperature change? Well, this is an isobaric process. Considering the ideal gas equation, which is still applicable for this, and if we take pressure to be constant, we find that the volume of the gas is proportional to the absolute temperature of the gas. In that case, the ratio of volume to temperature of the gas must remain a constant. So if you write V1 by T1, the ratio of initial volume to the initial temperature of the gas, it must be equal to V2 by T2, the ratio of the final volume of the gas to the final temperature of the gas. We know everything here except T2, the final temperature of the gas. So let's find that out after substitution. T2 turns out to be V2 by V1 into T1. What is V2? 0.75 meter cube or 3 by 4 meter cube. V1 is 1 meter cube, so the ratio turns out to be simply 3 by 4. What is T1? It is 0 degrees Celsius or 273 Kelvin. And if you simplify this, you will get approximately 205 Kelvin. Now we know the final temperature. Let's go back to that equation and write the heat removed from the system to be N Cp delta T. And this happens to be PV by RT into 5R by 2 into final temperature, which is 205 minus the initial temperature, which is 273 Kelvin. But you see that R and R can be cancelled, and let us substitute the value of pressure, volume and temperature in the beginning. How much was it? 1 into 10 to the power 5 into volume was 1 meter cube divided by temperature, which was 273 Kelvin, into 5 by 2 into 205 minus 273 Kelvin. If you simplify this, since all the values are in SI unit, the final value in joule turns out to be 0.62 into 10 to the power 5. There's a negative sign here because you're looking at the heat removed from the system. Delta T turns out to be negative. And if you convert that into calorie, it turns out to be minus 15 kilocalorie. That's your final answer. The correct option for this question is A.